After winning Olympic gold in the 1960 Olympics, Nino will begin his pro career the beginning of 1961. He will stack up 56 straight wins, picking up the Italian middleweight national title before getting a crack to fight fellow Italian countryman, the 40-1 Sandro Mazzinghi, for the undisputed junior middleweight title. Nino, in front of 40,000 in attendance, would come up victorious, getting the KO victory in the 6th round to become the undisputed junior middleweight champion. After one defense of the undisputed crown and one defense of his newly acquired EBU middleweight title, Nino found himself traveling to an unfamiliar territory against a familiar opponent. He was set to face his 1960 Olympic rival, OPBF champion Ki-So Kim, in his backyard of South Korea. Korea's sports program in the 1950s and onward was pumping out a lot of talent and competing on a high level. Sold out crowd for this highly anticipated rematch with history on the line. The South Korean leader was in attendance to watch history be made. Ki-So will earn the split decision, becoming the first undisputed champion and first champion in general to hail from South Korea. Nino coming in the fight was a perfect 65-0 with no draws or no contests. Clean sheet, which would make him the record holder over Rocky Marciano if he would have gotten past Key and retired undefeated, which that is a big what if, because Nino was incredibly young for such a pro record with 65 fights. He was only 28 years old at the time. Nino would fully fight at middleweight following the loss and become a two-time undisputed champion to end his career off 82-7 with one draw. Italian and Chinese descent, fighting out of New Orleans, Tony would become one of the division's top prospects with notable wins of quality names in the weight class. 1974 will be his breakout year, defeating former undisputed champion, number 7 ranked Emil Griffith for the NABF title, a very important regional belt, and defeated QB Jackson for the IBF USBA title. This will put Tony at number 7 in the middleweight rankings. Coming into 1975, Tony would find himself as the number 2 contender at middleweight with the record of 48-0 with 3 draws. Tony would find himself going over to Milan, Italy to fight Argentine Roman Mendez. Tony would get knocked down in round 3. He would tighten up the scorecards, hurting Mendez, but not tying up the knockdown count. Mendez was able to close the fight strong for the fight to go to the scorecards. Tony would lose by majority decision, earning his first career defeat. Jarrell Miller came onto the scene as the next generation of heavyweight hopefuls to make a splash and maybe become a title holder or post a legitimate challenge to the title. Miller would finally have that shot against unified champion Anthony Joshua in 2019. The promotion for this fight was amazing, with both guys going at it whenever they can. You had both guys on Sway in the morning throwing out freestyles, AJ holding his own.
Find me fighting on June 1st at MSG, lyrical MC in NYC, holding it down. I ain't a clown, I'm ready to rebound. I'ma knock Miller out around the 8th round.
Putting up a good show, and Miller on a shocker of a performance. Probably the best freestyle I've ever seen from an athlete. Better yet, a boxer.
I'm fighting a dude named Femi, worse than a rotten Emmy. These dudes wanna talk shit, but they ain't really want no envy. There's a reason why I come from BK, cause I pop that shit. I'm 50 across that lip.
Just a great promotion to the lead up.
That's freestyling, man. That's freestyling. That's freestyling, man.
For everything to come crashing down when Miller would test positive for cardarine, aka GW151, which forces the skeletal muscle to use fats over carbohydrates as an energy source, increasing muscle and burning fat. Where I'm at in the world, living at, you can literally buy this from the local pharmacy or Lazada, which is like the Amazon in Asia. It's very easy to obtain, but it's illegal in pretty much every single sport. He tested for that and HGH, which is some old school PED, 80s era Olympic track guys were using that stuff. So Miller will be suspended for a long while, and the next time we will see him would be in 2022. He went from looking like a powerlifter with good speed and power that was ravaging guys to the build of Grimace with the hand speed of Alfredo Angulo. It is insane how much he had relied on these substances. He was able to slim down a bit, losing a good 20 pounds, but he still looked night and day from what we saw of him pre-Joshua bust. In his biggest fight up to date, since the Bodan fight in 2018, Miller would be in the phone booth with Lucas Browne till he was able to stop Lucas Browne in the 6th round. Miller was back in the mix of contender fighting Daniel Dubois. Dubois, for the most part, shut Miller out, who happened to look slower than Daniel by comparison. Miller would showboat after getting hit clean in the final minute of the fight, which you would think Miller was trying to bait him into something big, which he'll rush into a shot by Dubois, this time hurting him. Miller, living by the sword and dying by the sword, will still showboat as he is falling towards the ropes, with Dubois to continue to unload on Miller, getting the stoppage. Very weird final minute because Miller not once threw a punch following the initial showboating, instead rushing forward to get hit more by Daniel. It's almost like he purposely wanted the fight to not go to the scorecards. Very, very strange. Tom McNeeley, the father of one of Tyson's quickest pro fights, Peter McNeeley, was a heavyweight prospect turned contender with a record of 23-0 at the age of 24, ranked number 9 in the world by Ring Magazine. McNeeley would get the dream shot of fighting the heavyweight champion Floyd Patterson, who just came up victorious from his trilogy against Ingemar Johansson. McNeeley would get knocked down in between 9 to 11 times. Reason why? Because some of the knockdowns, which were clear knockdowns, was not counted, like here. McNeeley is dropped, he rushes back up and clocks Patterson, which Patterson just eats it to just mount up an offense to drop McNeeley once more at the end of the round. I don't know how McNeeley pulled it off. If he had the power, he may had a chance because he was catching Floyd with some sneaky shots. He literally throws himself on the ropes, launches himself, and clocks Patterson, momentarily buckling him. He will then get an insane combination of low blows before Floyd will be more patient to beautifully put an end to the fight, with McNeeley this time just barely missing the 10 count. That's a green eyes Hajime no Ippo moment right there. Those guys are dangerous to the very end, and only the ref and the corner can save them.
And the fight is over.
After winning bronze in the 1996 Atlanta Olympics, Tarver would go pro at the later age of 28. By April 2000, Tarver would find himself at number 8 in the world by Ring Magazine in an IBF title elimination match to be in line to fight Roy Jones Jr. Tarver was matched up against number 7 ranked Eric Harding, who was also undefeated with the record of 18-0. Tarver was currently ranked number 1 by the IBF and Harding number 2. Exciting technical show by both guys.
He, without leaving himself open to their heads well. 69. Eric Harding following him. Right now, Tarver's making on Harding. He don't have to worry. Harding can say to himself, maybe I'll let Tarver before being upset.
Tarver would begin to fade in the later half of the fight. Harding would knock Tarver down in the final 30 seconds to the 11th due to the ref not jumping in, and Tarver, what seems to be not fully down, Harding would get an extra hit in, putting Tarver down.
Walk into a punch. Well, Eric Harding in the late rounds is taking control, and Tarver goes down. Tarver went down. He was leaning against the ropes. That is a knockdown, and then Harding popped him because the referee Elmo Adolf really didn't jump in.
Harding will bag in the 12th round, and he will beat Tarver by unanimous decision on the scorecards to get him one step closer for a Roy Jones Jr. fight for the title.
Has a padded 16-0 record with 14 knockouts, but in his first step up in class, he is really struggling against Eric Harding.
By unanimous decision, and he goes on to fight Roy Jones Jr., Eric Magic 2000 Harding.
Well, Teddy, they had...
Nico Ali Walsh is the grandson of the great Muhammad Ali. Nico did not have the vast amateur record. However, if he remained motivated to learn and had an active schedule fighting opponents of various styles, getting good rounds in, he can very well show promise in the years to come. The biggest problem to this is immediately throwing Nico on TV at the start of his career, not giving Nico the time to become a quality prospect, as every fight will be looked under the magnifying glass and fans criticizing the quality of the opponents. I'm not saying he shouldn't be on TV altogether, but in the old days, which was not too long ago, they will have one fight on TV, then you won't see them for several fights to come. This gives up-and-coming talent to work on what's right and what's wrong, fine-tuning and improving oneself. This method was also used for fighters who had a bad loss or been inactive for a while, have a couple of untelevised fights on the road against sparring partner level opponents, making them sharp and having that confidence back, then have him on TV against a quality opponent where it doesn't look like he or she had not lost a step or look better in comparison. I don't know if Nico had that choice. However, either way, the promotion's at fault here for not having him grow when knowing, bearing the name of a great, he's going to be held to a different level of criticism. In May 2023, Nico would step up in class and fight journeyman Danny Rosenberg. His record is very unattractive, which, looking at his box rec, all his losses were at the very beginning of his career, which shows that he was simply learning on the job. His first 19 fights, he will only get 6 wins, 9 losses, and 4 draws. After that, he will go on a 7-fight win streak. 2 of those fights were literally days apart from each other. Looks like he was taking advantage of getting more rounds in at the pro level and Colombia, as well as correcting his unattractive record. From the start of the bell, this guy did not look like a guy who was 13-09 on paper. This will be a rough fight stylistically for Nico, where he can potentially lose. Nico was able to get a draw, however this did not set well with the general public despite Dan being tested for high levels of testosterone. The fight being switched to a no contest. Dan would get suspended for 9 months, however Dan just 2 months later would go back to Colombia and have 3 more fights to end the year off. The way things are going with his schedule, I think we're going to see this guy again in the near future. But anyways, Nico's next opponent, Sona Akale, would be his next biggest test. Tough, rugged guy with the style that he is going to be on you, not allowing you to breathe. Nico would have his moments showing how he has improved offensively and defensively. However, the constant pressure, which he was not used to, and it showed, wearing Nico out, where Akale would finish the fight on a strong note to earn the majority decision win. Lucas Browne will come on the scene as one of the few Australian heavyweights that can break out on the world stage, winning on the national level and the regional stage in Australia and the Pacific. He will have some fights out in the UK and find himself defeating UK heavyweight prospect Richard Towers for the final eliminator of the Commonwealth title, very important regional belt. He will then win the Commonwealth title to move along to earn the WBA Intercontinental title against the 24-0 Jarrell Miller. A year and some change later, Browne would be ranked number 2 by the WBA, right behind the WBA interim champion Luis Ortiz at number 1. Browne would find himself up against WBA regular champion Ruslan Chagaev. Keep in mind, Tyson Fury is a real WBA champion. He has the super title. Chagaev, an ancient name from the late 90s era and Y2K era, I don't think one will be hearing in the year of 2016. Ruslan, who is visibly nowhere near the Ruslan people remember that dethroned the 46-0 Nikolai Valuev in 2007, that fought Vladimir Klitschko in 2009, was able to show one last spark, flooring Browne in the 6th round to be saved by the bell. However, Browne would rebound and knock Ruslan out in the 10th round. This will be Ruslan's final fight of his career. After a 6-round non-title exhibition, Browne will face the number 8 ranked WBC silver champion Dillian Whyte. Lucas was unable to avoid getting hit by Whyte. Every time he was engaging, Whyte was picking him apart. Despite it being the 3rd round, looking at Browne's face, you would have thought it was the 8th round. And it was in due time Browne was going to hit the ceiling punishment his chin can take, and Whyte got him out in the 6th round. Ryan would blow up very early in his career in popularity. However, he was very rough around the edges and a work in progress. These rough around the edges weren't really apparent till after his round 1 KO against Fernando Parra for the NABF title. This puts Ryan in the world ranks, and this is roughly around the time he was calling out Gervonta Davis. My opinion on this matter is Ryan, by all means, in this shape and form, lacked pretty much everything in every category to win, besides speed and power, which it doesn't take much to make adjustments and shut Ryan out during this time. Davis, on the other end, when he got into title contention and won the IBF title, he was already the complete package. I think over the years there's been barely noticeable improvements, and that's not a bad thing at all. If he stays in shape in between fights, have a more moderate lifestyle, doesn't have training camps like he did with the Gamboa fight, he's a complete package when it comes to what he offers in the ring, offensively and defensively. Ryan, on the other hand, I didn't see any improvements, but what can you work on if you're knocking guys out in the first 3 rounds? In 2018, with all the hype with Ryan, he was moved to headlining his own card at the StubHub, selling it out, which can be a make or break on this stage, as Ryan is 19 years old. His opponent, Jason Velez. Tough, young, experienced fighter that would really test Ryan on the world stage. Velez having a rough 4 fights, 3 being very tight on the scorecards against Ronnie Rios for the vacant WBC silver title, split decision loss to future WBA regular champion Rene Alvarado, and a majority decision loss to Alfredo Santiago. Velez will go on a 3-fight win streak, defeating future champion Alberto Machado, a TKO win over Juan Manuel Lopez. This fight here against Ryan being for the NABF and NABO titles. Ryan will start off quickly, however after the first 3 rounds, Jason had not only adjusted to Ryan because he wasn't really mixing it up, but also Ryan was beginning to tire out by the 6th round. Now luckily this was only a 10-round fight and Ryan would get the decision win. This next fight will be the big wake-up call. Ryan will look good early, but his opponent, like Velez, will adjust to Ryan's only weapon and make it a very rough fight. If this was a game of Madden or the game real NFL enthusiasts play, NFL 2K5, this will be the equivalent of only having 2 plays in the playbook. You can only run a 1 design slant route and a 1 design play action pass. No audibles, nothing else. That's what you were watching here. And if you were Ryan's handlers, it was the hardest thing to watch. Ryan will get a rather generous majority decision win, but this was a wake-up call. His manager put him in with the Reynosos and to be mentored by Canelo. It saw a little bit of backlash, however the moment of truth would come up his next fight against Rodriguez. A night and day difference under the Reynosos.
Jab, get closer.
That's a wild hook. That just missed by Rodriguez. He is letting it. And down he goes.
This is over.
Ryan was improving every single fight leading up to his biggest test against top 4 ranked lightweight Luke Campbell. A win here will put Ryan in title contention and on the prize fight stage.
He wants to. Oh, left hand sends the kid down, and that's what he was setting him up for.
Despite the rocky start, Ryan was able to do what he was unable to do in the past, which was make adjustments, mix it up, and get back to what Eddie taught him in training defensively. These adjustments shut Campbell down as he was doing his best to set up the same shot he landed on Ryan to knock him down, but each time it was blocked. Ryan in the 7th round would deliver a Reynoso Gym signature body shot to knock out Luke Campbell.
To Ryan Garcia, your young body shot, and he goes down, and now Campbell is down on a knee, 2 knees, asking, do I want to get up? Can I get up? It is over!
Unfortunately, Ryan would drop the Reynosos and team up with Joe Goosen, which is not really the best match when it comes to adding more layers to a young fighter. He sort of just lets you do you, which is really not a good thing because Ryan will revert back defensively and pick up his old habits that Eddie had almost successfully beaten out of him. A perfect match for Ryan post Reynosos would have been Freddie Roach. He would have given him better balance offensively, defensively, and made sure the bad habits that Eddie was fixing wouldn't unravel.
So from the first day of their partnership, Roach's focus was on resetting his fighters' habits and recalibrating his arsenal.
Cotto seems to be the boss in that camp, and he calls the shots, and Cotto's making fundamental mistakes, and no one's correcting him. The fighter can't just do it himself. He's got to have someone remind him of the good habits and bad habits.
He was just right.
So I made a video years back called Why Ryan Garcia versus Gervonta Davis Would Not Happen. I explain in great detail why, given the politics, it wouldn't happen and how the fight can happen. Now, the fight was made. We're talking about it right now. People came to the video and said, it's not too late to delete it. I'm not deleting it. It's a quality deep dive of why I can't get the big fights and what has to be done for it to happen. The final 2 minutes, I explain how it will happen. We have 2 parties who believe they are the A side, which will create even more problems coming with a deal.
Who the hell cares who gets announced first or second? Who cares whether it's Mayweather-Pacquiao or Pacquiao-Mayweather? Who cares in the whole scheme of things that Leonard Ellaby welcomed everybody to the press conference and then introduced me? Who really cares about that stuff?
For example, Cotto Martinez almost didn't get made because Cotto wanted his name first. Martinez is the lineal and WBC champion. He has every right to have his name first, but if he really wanted the Cotto fight, he had to make a compromise and have Cotto, the challenger's name, first in the title.
He's a diva. How is he a diva?
Más que aceptado, me da igual. El haber escuchado las peticiones rozan lo absurdo. Lo del rincón rojo, lo de ser presentado último del ring y una serie de cosas más. Que si eso no son caprichos de diva, pues explícame cómo se llama entonces.
You have two parties who believe that they are the A side. There's going to be a lot of A side demands, and one party has to step up and make that compromise. In this case, crazy enough, Ryan made that compromise and agreed to every demand Davis' party had laid out. This is a very rare case of a fighter stepping over a promotion to make this fight happen because they were not hot on the fine prints of this deal. This deal comprised of a catch weight of 138, then it was changed to 136, which was either agree or go home. After that, there was a rehydration clause where both are only able to put on 10 pounds coming into fight day. Same tactics that was used against Canelo, but a bit more drastic as Floyd made Canelo fight at a catch weight of 152 pounds rather than having it at the 154 limit. Richard Schaefer in an article stating that Floyd had attempted to get Canelo down as low as 147 pounds and as high as 150 pounds prior to the final agreement of 152. Alright, the fight. The first, not so much from both guys. The second round, Ryan will be the aggressor early on, landing what he could. Davis engaging in a lot of holding, with Ryan aggressively trying to get a hand free to punch Davis. Though Ryan is scoring, holding is slowly disrupting Ryan's rhythm and pace where Davis can get set to develop his counter offense, which this will happen very soon. As Ryan defensively has reverted to pre-Reynoso Ryan overly aggressive, taking every opportunity he sees, like Vegeta during the Namek saga. After an exchange and really Ryan just not mixing it up, throwing nothing but hooks, all in Davis's range. Davis found his timing and floored Ryan on the spot. After that it would be all Davis. Ryan would have his moments, but it was few and far between. In rounds 6 and 7, Ryan was more effective when he was keeping his hands up, using his jab, and throwing straight shots. All within his range, not in Davis's range. Every time he would try to throw the hook, it was bad luck because he was always in Davis's range. If it failed the first 2 times, you should prioritize what was actually working. But Ryan lived by the hook and died by the hook, as he would throw another one while in Davis's range, where Davis was able to get him on the back end of his hook, landing a beautiful shot to the body. A delayed reaction sending Ryan to a knee. Ryan decided to make the wise decision of retiring from the fight and be counted out. And on top of that, this is When Boxers Lose Their O, Part 8. For more videos like these, be sure to like, share, and if you're new, subscribe. Subscribe to the Patreon for Patreon-backed projects and early access. This project being on the tale of Floyd Mayweather versus Ricky Hatton. I'm Alpha Sancho, and I'm out.